Hey, y'all, welcome to the show. I have a very special guest, another young lady that I was incarcerated with. We were together on the Dr. Lane Murray unit in Gatesville. You guys, welcome, TT. Hi, TT.
Hey,
Your name is Tiara, but your nickname is TT. In prison, we definitely called you TT. How are you?
I'm finding you.
Good. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate you so much. We're really excited to get into your story. There's a lot of things I want to talk about. You were incarcerated at a pretty young age. You spent a lot of time in solitary confinement. I want to dig into all of that. Let's talk about when you first kind of got involved or mixed in with the legal system. What was going on in your life?
Well, I was 18 years old at that time. It started a little earlier than that, but for my adult wise, if I'm talking about being an adult, it started when I was about 18 years old. I just had a baby, so my son was about 2 months at that time, and I was gang related as a teenager, moving from New Orleans. So it just like I felt like I was by myself most of the time because I didn't have a lot of children that was my age, like family wise. It was just me. And then so I got put in with those group of people, and then I felt like, okay, so since I'm gang related, like I have to do whatever they tell me to do and always have to be available whenever they needed me to be available. And at this particular time I felt something was kind of off, but I still went, and then that's when everything happened.
And that's how you caught your charge. When did you start getting involved with gang life? How old were you?
I was about 15.
So at 15 years old, were you living with your parents at that time?
I was living with my mom. We just moved down here from Houston to from New Orleans to Houston.
So you moved to a new area, and that's kind of who you clicked up with first. They kind of took you in and
Yeah,
made you feel welcome in a new
like
area, right?
family. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how much time did you get at 18 years old?
7 years.
So they sentenced you to 7 years. Is that when you went to Lane Murray, or where did you start your time?
I went to Hilltop, and then after Hilltop, I moved to Mountain. I mean, they didn't have AC, so I became Native American. I moved to Mountain View. Mountain View had AC, and then I was getting in trouble, and then they moved me to Lane Murray.
Let's talk about that. You made a religion change so that you could make a unit change. Because
Yep.
let's talk about the summers in prison in Texas.
Yeah. At one particular time, I remember, and I think it was on Hilltop when I first went to prison, and it was really hot. Like it was so hot. They put the laser on the wall outside. I think it was like 103 degrees. Inside, it was 115 degrees. And then we would put our sheets with the little clip and put the sheet on, and then lay under it just so the air could circulate and we could become cool.
Sometimes we would even wet the sheet or wet our
Hmm.
clothes. It was so hot.
Or get underneath
You,
the bunk. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So you knew that there was an air conditioned unit that had a certain religion, and that was the religion of Native American.
Mm-hmm.
So you changed religions and they shipped you to Mountain View. What happened at Mountain View that made them to ship you off?
I was the officer's pick, actually. I was the officer's pick. The warden loved me, the lieutenant, the major, the captains. Everybody loves me because I work ODR. And then a lot of people don't know what that is. That's the officer's dining room. That's where I work. So I cook for the officers. And I used to actually, they had a cell phone in there. And I mean, like not a cell phone, but a regular phone. And then I would answer it and take the officer's orders, and then I would drop it off to them. That's how that happened. And then I was getting in trouble a lot. And then the warden was like, she didn't like the people who I was talking to, who I was engaging with. So she said, if you get another write up, I'm going to move you. But I was like, well, I want to go G4 anyway. And then she said, that's it, I'm moving you. And she moved me like a day later. I was moved.
Wow. And then you hit Lane Murray. So because Mountain View unit is a fairly small unit,
Hmm.
and Lane Murray unit is a really large camp. It holds
Yeah.
1,300 females. You were affiliated. You were kind of in the gang life prior to your incarceration. Did that carry on into the prison system at all?
No.
Did you see any kind of gang activity in the prison system during your incarceration?
Yes.
Can you tell me about it? Because I didn't, but sometimes I think I might have been naive to it.
Uh-huh. And then in a dorm that you were in too. But a lot of the times, even when I was on Hilltop, they had certain things. I mean, I was a gang related. I was what they called a blood, right? And then so they had a lot of those people who I was socialized with that was in on Hilltop. And then one particular person, we moved from Hilltop to Mountain View to Lamer. We went to all three units with each other. So they had a lot of those, whether they were blue, whether they were red, whether some of them and some of them were even Aryan Brotherhood. I mean, not the Aryan Brotherhood, but they were part of that kind of culture, the ones that I've met and came across with.
Any fights behind that at all?
Yes, one. I almost got into one fight behind it. Only one. Even though I was not saying that I was gang related anymore, they did have one person who was part of another gang. And then they didn't like me and the girl who I was friends with. And then they wanted to fight us. That was on Hilltop Unit.
Some people that I've talked to talk about their affiliation, and there's certain things that they have to do to get out of their affiliation and away from that. Is that how it works in your organization, or are you able just to say, hey, I'm not about that anymore?
No, it's that. I mean, that's totally right what you just said. It is certain things, but the reason why, I don't know, I wouldn't say why I got so lucky, but one of the reasons why I kind of got lucky was because a lot of the big people who were above me, they all went to prison for 75 plus. So when I came home, it was just like no one was around. So it was just like, but a couple of stragglers were still around, but I moved from Houston to be away from that. And it worked out in my favor because a lot of them, almost all of them went to prison, and they're not getting out.
It kind of was a break for you to be able to
Mhm.
get a fresh start without doing too much. During your incarceration, I knew you and we were friends in there, and I love seeing you out here doing great things. I love seeing your beautiful pictures on social media for certain. You got housed in solitary confinement.
I wasn't housed. I was only G4. I was trying to go G5. It looked like I was housed because I almost lived in solitary confinement. I was
Really?
born here. Mm-hmm.
And I thought that you were. I thought that you
Mm-hmm.
had been. They used solitary confinement as punishment.
Mm-hmm.
So you spent a lot of time in solitary confinement. Tell me about some of that. Explain what solitary confinement looks like in a Texas prison.
A big old cage. If I'm describing just the way it looks, imagine like upstairs, downstairs, cells going all the way around, like in almost like a circle, right? And downstairs is the same way. And then in when you're getting ready to go downstairs, you know how like you can hold the rail and walk. If you're by the foyer area, it's all mesh, and you go down some metal stairs. And then, but in certain solitary confinements, it's like a big like a imagine like a WWF ring. The mesh thing is in the middle, right? And then it's a big old cage. So say somebody say they're suicidal or something like that, they gotta sit up in there with a sheet like a paper gown on. That's what it looks like in there. And you'll see fishnets flying everywhere.
If you're in solitary confinement and you're having suicidal thoughts and you tell the officers that, what is their response?
Are you suicidal or whatever? And depends on some of the things that you do. They might pepper spray you. They might barge up in there with a lot of officers in there. They'll give you a psych evaluation after you done sit up in there for so long. You could have probably killed yourself by then. By the time they come in, they give you a gown. Sometimes on certain units, they'll send you it put you. I know in Mountain View they put you naked inside of solitary in a freezing cold room. And Lane Mary, they just put you in the middle of the cage with a paper gown on. So you can't have like string, paper, pencil. You can't have any of that.
Have you ever known anybody to take their own life while you were incarcerated?
I have been next to someone who has. I don't know who they were at that time though, because Lane Murray was so big. I don't know who she was, but I do know it was like my cell and then 2 cells down from me. She did do it, but I'm not sure who she was. I never met her.
Can you kind of explain? I mean, you don't have to go like into gory details, but can you just walk us through how that looked for you?
Yeah. So I remember, I want to say, I forgot that girl's name, because everybody went by a lot of nicknames in there. And then so Marcel, well, you can communicate with each other through, like they have like a vent. So imagine like your ventilation in your house. Just imagine like a little bit bigger one, like a sheet of paper size, mesh. You can actually talk through it. So you could talk to it from the people upstairs and the people downstairs, but they have to be in your immediate, like, next door. And upstairs, next door, next door, next door. Like, you could speak to people like that. So I remember one of the girls was speaking to her, and I know the girl was crying, crying, and crying, complaining about a lot of stuff, but she was mostly like crying, like depressed. Well, what I do know is the girl who I was in the event with, she came back and she talked to me about it or whatever. Like, days go on, days go on. All of a sudden, the girl is not responding to her. The girl's not responding to her no more. Not responding. And everybody's hitting their picket at this time because a lot of people, I guess, knew her. I didn't know her. So a lot of people was hitting the button. And when I say they was calling the picket, it's like a little button, like an emergency button that they take their time answering. And then everybody was hitting it at the same time, hitting it, and an officer will come on. And I don't think they checked that girl's cell till like it was almost lunchtime, lunch or dinner time, one of those two. That's when they checked it, and that's when they found her. The girl cut herself.
When they finally found her, she had already passed away. Did you see
Yeah.
ambulance personnel?
Yes. And they told everybody to get away from their doors. Everybody, get away from your doors, get away from your doors. And that's what they were telling them. But you seeing everybody come in, you seeing her in the bag, seeing them wheel her out the unit. And then I'm not sure what it looked like outside the unit because I was in a cell, but I do know what it looked like when they were bringing her out the cell.
Do you think that she would have been able to be successful in taking her own life if she had not been in solitary confinement?
No, she wouldn't have been able to. It's kind of hard to do it in a dorm with 102 women. I think it was 102 women that we had up in there, 102 women. It's kind of hard, because, of course, everybody sees everything. When you think nobody's not watching, it's about 20 people actually really watching you. So I don't think that, no, she wouldn't have. No.
You had talked about being in a dorm with 102 women and spending quite a few years with women around you all the time. And I'm wondering if, since coming home, have you ever felt like a loneliness for that?
No, I actually do not like being around them. I have no female friends. I don't like being around them because I was around you so much, like women so much. We slept together, we ate together, we worked together, we stripped together. So no, I find solace in my solitude. I guess being in solitary confinement and doing all that, it kind of messed with my brain a little bit. Still to this day, I prefer to be alone, and I don't like a lot of noise.
And you think spending so much time in solitary confinement kind of conditioned you for that?
Yep.
You talked about working and stripping. Can we talk about stripping in Texas prisons?
Yes, I worked after I left ODR. I got a lot of jobs that you have to strip search. I worked whole squad with you in medium custody. Well, you got to take off. It's like they put you in 1, 2, 3, maybe about 5 rows, and each of the female officers, which I think you only had 2, they'll bring 3 other officers, and then they'll all strip search you. So you got to take off all your clothes and have them in your hand. Most of the time, we only took off our shirt and our pants, shoes, and socks. And then we'll wait in line for them to tell us to take off our bra, to at least keep some type of privacy. And then we'll take off our bra afterwards and take off our underwear. If you have on a pad or a tampon, you got to take that off too. Don't take it off. You got to lift underneath, cough and squat. You got to look into your nostrils, your tonsils, your earlobes, your butt, your private areas. And if you have a tummy, you got to lift that up too.
So all those women are in one area at the same time, getting undressed at the same time. I think a lot of people have this vision of people getting strip searched, like one officer and one inmate, and it's pretty professionally done.
If you strip search, you could be strip searched. You could be strip searched with about 100 women in there, and 5 officers. So everybody sees what you look like. So modesty, I think that just goes out the window if that's what you were thinking, because you're gonna be stripping a lot every day. You stripping.
What reasons do they have to strip you?
Sometimes if you get a petty officer that's just petty. They could strip search you for no reason just because they're an officer. You just have to do what they tell you to do. But you could strip search after you get off from the child hall because you could be taking something home, and to the dorm that you have that you're not supposed to bring from the child hall. Or the whole squad, if you have a carrot, they want to know if you have a carrot in your pocket, or if you have a piece of paper from the law library, or just about anything. They just go strip search you and make sure, because they just write ups.
What kind of contraband did you see in women's prisons? Like, have you ever seen any real contraband being caught during these strip searches?
I actually knew somebody because I watched one of your videos and I was like, oh, she wasn't on Hilltop with me. They had somebody who had, I seen marijuana, I seen ecstasy, and I seen handlebars. I seen those three things in prison. Other than that, like when the cell phone thing and they locked all of, I didn't see nobody with a cell phone.
If there was a cell phone on the unit, I had no idea. I moved around a lot, so I feel like I at least would have gotten a rumor of it, and I never did. Can we talk about unit lockdowns when the prison
Yes.
system locks down the unit?
The one thing I do remember is that they have an annual lockdown every year. Every Texas person goes on lockdown. Sometimes it's almost different units at the same time, or sometimes it's, however the order that they do it, because we're not on the other unit, so we don't know actually if they're locked down. But what I do remember was sometimes, I remember one time we didn't take a shower for like 3 days on one unit. We didn't take a shower for 3 days. And when we were able to take a shower, we were only able to take a shower for a certain amount of time because everybody wanted to shower. And then they give you like a Johnny. A Johnny is like a brown bag, and it has like some food in it that they give you because you don't get normal lunch or anything like that. And then it could be like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Imagine a little bitty scoop of, little scooper, and it seemed like they just smack dab in the middle of it in jelly, and that's what you get. And then an apple, and then sometimes a boiled egg, whatever it is, but that's what they give you to eat. Because most of the times you run out of commissary by then. You just run out. So if you had commissary, 9 times out of 10, everybody has ran out of commissary on lockdown. And then you stay in your cubicle or your cell and you don't come out at all, period. And then when that's done, and it's because every dorm has to take turns getting searched like thoroughly, like your electronics that they write, well, like an electric pen on the back of like your fan, your radio, whatever you have that's electronic that you have to buy, well, like a special purchase, right? Stuff that's not food or hygiene, that's a special purchase for shoes and stuff. If your name is not on, if it looks like it's been remade over, because some inmates can do that. They can, when people go home, they give your stuff away. If that's not right and you have a property slip for it, they'll take it from you. And then you have to carry your mattress from one side of the unit to another side of the unit. And if you accumulated a lot of stuff, like a lot of books and stuff and pictures, you got to carry all that to the other side of the unit. You might be walking about 10 minutes. If you're tired, that's just a personal problem to them. They'll mess up your pictures. They'll take some of your pictures. They'll just take and just throw in, just throw your stuff any kind of way. And everything, every letter, every piece of thing that you've written on, everything is thoroughly searched, even your Bible. So nothing's safe.
What kind of contraband did you see officers find during these kind of lockdown searches?
Nothing.
I just felt like it was to throw away trash. Anything that we wanted to keep, we still kept. So it was really interesting to me that if the kind of contraband I kept in there might be Free World eyeshadow, that kind of thing. And we were always able to keep that kind of stuff because it was hidden. Right. It felt so pointless to me.
Yeah, you know what? I seen somebody who used to have Free World eyeshadow, and one of the officers said, "Your makeup look better than mine." Searched the girl cubicle and threw her stuff away.
Did she find the eyeshadow?
She found it. It was in a little baggie, and she took it. Rolled up too.
Let's talk about write-ups. What was the worst thing that you've ever gotten a disciplinary case for? And then we'll just throw it back to what is the most petty thing you've gotten a disciplinary case for?
I think the most serious thing I got a case for, of course I got it thrown away. A sex case, because I was getting my hair braided. And then usually when a lot of women get their hair braided, if they don't sit in the day room, they'll crawl to somebody else's cell, sit there, and they'll get their hair braided. Or even if they just crawl up in there and sit there and just talk to their friend. in privacy, because you don't have privacy if you sit in a day room because you sit next to 20 different people. However, so they'll do that. Well, I forgot his name. He he seen my leg go out from somebody's cell to go inside of mine. He wrote me up for. I think the pettiest thing I got a write up for, I forgot. I don't know. A lot of my cases were thrown out.
You got a sex case when nobody saw you touching anyone. I mean, it didn't go through, but it got written. I got a sex tape case for doing this across
I
the
believe it.
to my
I believe
old
it.
roommate.
Oh, you know what? That's one of the pettiest things. I got a write up for signing.
Tell us
Uh-huh.
what signing is.
Signing is like if you gotta communicate with somebody from far distance, or if you need to do a message, you move your hand, and it's kind of like if you want to say A, you do like A. You want to do B, you do a B. And it's just like that, and you sign, and you become a professional at it after so long. So
Tiara, the men's prisons in Texas, they don't sign that way. And in my meeting other like prison TikTokers and
right,
people that have done time everywhere, nobody
right,
communicates that way. This is
right.
something that women
Uh-huh.
incarcerated in Texas have come up with. And if you maybe you want to talk to the person that lives right next to you, but you don't want anyone to hear you,
Right.
you can do it small. And
You can
maybe
do
if
it big.
right, if I saw TT way across the unit, and I wanted her to go to church tomorrow, I would sign really big, and that way, and that's how we would do it.
I like that afterwards, so that's it. Nothing else. Just
Right. People ask me a lot to do a video on signing, and I keep meaning to. I just haven't yet. You got wrote up for signing.
I don't remember what that case was. I think that was one of the first, the second cases I got. You know what? The most serious case I got was assault on an officer. I just remembered that. On Hilltop Unit, her name was Miss Binskin. I was kind of spoiled when I first went to prison. Mind you, I was only 19. Judge me if you may, but I asked the lady to move out my way, and she didn't move out my way. And when she didn't move out my way, I pushed her, and they sent me to say it. So judge me if you may. I did learn my lesson from that. I don't act like that. But I forgot what the case was for the signing part, but that was one of them. I think that was the most pettiest one that I got.
TT, you serve your time and
Hmm.
you get out of prison. Do you have support on the outside helping you? Like, did you make parole or did you finish your sentence?
I did my flat 7.
Okay, so you don't have to mess with parole. Tell me how it is being released. Like, what does the state do for you when they release you from prison?
Where they give you some clothes that's real big, and then if you make parole, they give you $50, and then your other 50 is with your parole officer. But if you max your time like I did, they just give you a check of $100. That's just about it. And then after that, my mom came pick me up. So I don't know what the bus situation was like because I got picked up. But I do know a lot of women that give you a Greyhound ticket. I don't really too much know. I want to tell you something that I've heard people say because I don't know, but I just know I just walked out the gate and my mom was there.
Did you stay with your mom then when you first got out?
Yes.
We were talking a little bit about housing and what are you doing with your life now? Did you have any challenges with employment or any of that coming out of prison?
Yes. I had a lot of challenges. That's why, because I see myself, I wasn't going on the right path. So I moved to Dallas, Texas. My first job, I started working at Harbor Freight. And then I became one of the sales supervisors there. I moved back to Houston. And then I actually owned my own company at one point in time. I owned a home care agency. And I was doing that for a while. Then I started working in construction. So now I drive a truck. I have a Class B and I drive a truck. So that's what I do. So I work in construction. But looking for a job is like the hardest mess because you got to explain it. You got to, well, we'll call you. They don't call you and you could just get discouraged. But you just got to find if it's for you, it's for you. If it's not for you, it's not for you. And that's how you just have to look at it.
And then housing, how has that been?
So when I first moved to Dallas, I got in, surprisingly. When I came back to Houston, this was the first place that I've called, but man, I'm about to get ready to move here. When I tell you I called about 50 places to live and everybody denied me, even though the felony happened about 20 years ago and I haven't gotten in no trouble, nobody wanted to just, like, we don't want to take a chance on it. But I finally got approved for a bigger place, so I'm happy about that.
How did that approval process go for you?
Yeah, I think the only reason why I got approved is I was talking to the regional manager the whole time, and I didn't know I was talking to regional HR. And then she was like, "Yeah, what's going on? Where you live? How long have you been there?" And I'm just talking to her, and I was like, "Yeah, nobody really wanted to give me a chance. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though if you can call and you could talk to my previous employees, or I mean employers, or you could talk to this person and this person. I said nobody just want to just give you a chance or whatever. And I'm telling you, I did the application today. And then she called me back. She said, "Well, I was able to look at, and I just want to tell you, I approved you. I'm gonna give you a chance." And that just felt kind of good.
Do you have goals that you're working towards, or are you pretty much real comfortable where you're at?
I'm never gonna be comfortable in my current situation or whatever. So I think that's something I can never be comfortable with because I always want more. So if I just for example, like if I make $10,000 at a job, I'm gonna want to make 20 or whatever, and I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm doing everything the correct way or whatever. I do want to open up another company. I don't think I want to do it in Houston, but I do want to do that again because entrepreneurship is like a blessing. So if anybody ever experienced it, then you'll know what I mean or whatever. So I do want to go back to that.
If there are parents or aunts, uncles, grandparents, loved ones of young ladies that might be headed towards kind of that path that 15-year-old TT was on, and they're kind of hanging around with the wrong crowd or maybe getting involved in things that is not really their nature, what kind of advice would you have for them?
You know what? I'll just say, just sit back and think. You know what I'm saying? Because with these people really be there for you in the long run, I know it may seem like coming from somebody that's my age now that I don't get it, that I don't understand. But I promise you, I do understand because the walk of life that you had, I've experienced it. And I wish I would have listened to somebody who was trying to stop me from doing it, but it's just not worth it. Just think about what you really want out of life. Do you want to go this route or do you want to go this route? Because it's only going to lead to two different ways. You can stop it and you can go to straight path, or you can keep going. You can go to negative path, which only end up in two roads: jail or ground. So if that's what you want to do, you just keep doing that. But if you want better, if you want a beautiful home, if you want beautiful children, a husband, you know what I mean? You just want to excel in life and just be your best person, just go the other way because it's always another route. That route is not the right route for you. Don't do it. And then, like I said earlier, my son was 2 months when I went to jail. When I came home, when I went to prison, I went from holding this little baby, right? This 5-pound baby that I thought was just like the most precious thing that I've ever held, even when I was 18, to when I was coming home, I was 26 years old to a 7-year-old who actually, I loved him. I knew nothing about. I didn't know his favorite color. I didn't know what he liked to draw. He had this thing with Santa Claus. I didn't know how to really just open up about Santa Claus. I didn't know, I didn't know, I didn't actually know him because his life, he grew up with my mom. I didn't know him. And now I know him. We're best friends. I can't get him away from me. But, so it was a culture shock. That's what made me change my life, my mentality, the way I think, the way I act, the way I walk, the way I talk. It just made me just not want to indulge in anything that's going to take me away from my child. It's going to take me away from life, success, anything. I don't want anything in my life that's going to hinder me because I know what the other side look like now. You know what I mean? I know what that other side look like now, and that's the path that I don't want to cross again.
When you got incarcerated, your baby was 2 months old, and
mm-hmm.
Was your mom able to get him immediately?
Well, his dad had him at first, but his dad started working a lot, and then my mom just went on ahead and took over. But you mean when I came home, was I able to get him?
And then let's talk about that. Yeah, when you came home.
I had all my rights for my son. My mom had temporary custody just so she can be able to enroll him in school and take him to the doctor while I was incarcerated. But I was able to get my son almost immediately. Did I want to take him out that environment? No, because this is what he knew. He doesn't know me. I'm basically like a stranger, even though he used to visit me. An hour visit, 2 hour visit, it does no justice for a kid to get to know somebody, you know? But I slowly pulled him and nudged him. And he was like, I want to go with my mom. And I mean that's it.
I think that's so important that you didn't like come home and immediately move him
Yeah.
from where he was
No.
comfortable and change everything up at once. Let's talk about what kind of advice you might have for mothers that are incarcerated. What do they do to maintain that relationship with their child?
If sometimes you can't get visits, so I understand or whatever, but if you want to just what I found a lot of peace in was because my mom didn't come visit me regularly. She can't because we were far, you know. But I wrote a journal. I had a journal for my son or whatever, and I just told him my thoughts and things like that so he can get just a little piece of me, which I knew he wasn't going to read it right then and there, or memories that I had of him, just because kids like to know, memories. And I used to keep those memories, my thoughts about him, the last time, what he smelled like the last time I held him or anything like that, and then kids they like that, and that's what I mostly did a lot of that.
Since you've been home and watched your child grow, have you given them that journal? Have they seen it?
Yeah. That nerd cried. He cried. He cried, and I think that's what made us more close than what we are now because that's my best friend. We talk about everything in this world. That's my buddy, even though he's about to be 18, but he's my buddy.
Have you taken any special actions or steps to ensure that he doesn't kind of go down the same road that you did when, I mean, you were getting incarcerated when you were his age, right?
Yes.
Pretty close.
Yeah, the first time I was incarcerated, I was 13.
TT, you got incarcerated at 13? We need to talk about that also. Let me just ask you if there's anything that you do to help guide your son from not kind of going down that same path.
Yes, I do. At one point, I actually kind of seen it. My son has always felt a little bit alone because his dad was murdered actually when I was incarcerated. He died when my son was 1. So my son felt like he didn't have a mom or a dad, and so my son was also so had a lot of suicidal thoughts, at the age of 8 years old too. But I started seeing a little bit of that in the way he was acting. Luckily, he was acting the same way I was acting, so I was able to identify it. So I asked him, and I just took a different approach than what I was used to growing up. And then I asked him, I said, hey, what's going on with you? You want to talk about it? He said, no. I said, okay, well, get me when you're ready. He actually got with me later on that night and he told me everything he was feeling, everything that he felt or whatever. And then we were actually able to work on it. It took years. This was not something that took overnight. It actually took years or whatever for my son to see what I was telling him was actually true because it was just a lot. You just have, one would have to be there to actually listen to what I've told him about his future and everything. I mean, but now he's a straight A student. So, I mean, he did a complete turnaround. Like, this is not the same kid. Like, this kid he's on it now, but I've seen it.
We have to get back to you were locked up at 13. Can you tell me about that?
I got locked up 4 times before I went to TYC. The first time I was incarcerated, I think I was like in the 7th grade. No, I was like 7th, 8th grade. My brother, well, I don't know why everybody thought it was a provocative outfit, but it was like a long spaghetti strap that actually covered my whole back, my whole stomach up, and a long dress that actually touched the ground. And it was Gap. I remember my sister gave it to me. And my mom wanted me to take it, put a jacket on. And I was like, it's hot outside. I'm not putting a jacket on. Well, my brother came and he cut it. When he cut it, he cut my finger. So he cut skin off my finger. Like I had skin missing off my finger. It was like dangling. And then so when he did that, me and him got into a tussle, like a fist fight. Now, mind you, my brother is 5 years older than me. So if I'm 13, my brother's about to be 18 years old. And then so he's overpowering me. So the first thing I did was he threw a brick at me first. When he threw a brick at me, I ducked. And I got a meat cleaver and I chased him down the street. And my mom called the cops on me and they arrested me.
Did they arrest you and keep you? Did they arrest you for the night?
No, they arrested me for 6 months. I went to a halfway house called Arrowhead.
Can we talk about that? You were 13 at a halfway house. How was that? What did it look like?
It was like a cottage. They called it cottages. And when you graduate at different levels, they give you a gold necklace that was like an arrow. We did everything. We went to basketball games, football games. We met Akeem Olajuwon. We went just about everywhere. I mean, it was just like a regular home away from home. We wore our regular clothes. We went to regular school. And I just found one of the officers that was there. And because they used to spend 3 nights and 3 days with us. And then they'll be off for three, and they'll come back for 3 days. And I got back in contact with her because she treated me like a daughter while I was there. And luckily she remembered me from so long ago. But that's how that was. I had a problem with being loyal to all my friends, like to the core of me. I got arrested again for curfew violation because one of my friends ran away from home, and I was just like, "Well, you can't make it out there. I'm gonna come with you." I got incarcerated again. They put me on SOS probation, and then I left home again because me and my mom wasn't really getting along. My mom wasn't really getting along at this time because, mind you, I was spoiled. And then I got arrested again and again. And then they sent me the judge, my same judge. They said, we're getting tired of seeing you. We're gonna send you to TYC. And they sent me to TYC. And a lot of people don't know what TYC is, Texas Youth Commission. And I was a VOB 1, that's violation 1. And I had to do a mandatory 1 year. So I thought I was gonna be able to work my way out of this 1 year, but I wouldn't. I had to do that whole year or whatever. And when I got out, I went to a halfway house. I think the halfway house was in Fort Worth. And then from TYC, I went to prison. From TYC. What's crazy is they sent me on a Scare Straight program. And I remember the lady took my shoes in Dayton. I actually went back there as an inmate a year later.
That Scared Straight program, was it something that your family initiated for you, or it was judge ordered?
My probation officer.
And so they sent you to where? Plain State Jail?
Yeah,
for
I
Scared
went to Plain
Straight?
State. Mm-hmm.
Did it look like what the image I have is what you see on TV?
That's how I look.
Ladies kind of yelling things that would make you, to frighten you purposefully.
Mm-hmm. They made us. I remember. This is what I remember because my memory is almost vivid. When we went there, that they took our shoes and we had to wear their shoes. I didn't want to give them my shoes because my mom just bought me those shoes, and they had these big old pieces of wood, right? They made us go from pick up the wood and bring it over there, right? And then they said, "Oh, we made a mistake. It's not supposed to go there. It's supposed to go back there." So we had to carry that wood back and bring it back over there. So now I'm already tired because I don't want to do it no more. Well, they made me do it. I want to go get a certificate, and I was going to have to come back. So to take that wood and bring it further, guess what they said that the wood didn't belong there. We have to bring it back. And so this was all day, and the lady spitting all in your face and stuff. That's what they were doing. So we were having Scare Straight before they had even had cameras, because I was one of them.
It was the guard in your face or other inmates? Or
Mm-hmm.
inmates. Have you ever moved rocks around in Host Squad in that same manner as punishment?
No, they didn't treat me like that on Host Squad. Even if you remember, I was cool with the sergeant. On me and him were friends. So I got a lot of special treatment on Host Squad. If I wanted to do anything, or that's why a lot of my cases too were depleted, because I'll talk to him and he'll take care of it.
Let's talk about that. When you have the favor of some of the officers, what kind of things come from that?
That's why I said a lot of my cases were deleted, because I was friends with, not friends, it was just surviving. So if you have to survive, you got to do what you have to do to survive. So a couple of them I really was friends with. I'll just talk to them and be like, "Hey, like I got rolled up. Da-da-da. All right, I'll take care of it." I never heard about it again. So it's been maybe about 50 cases that I've had. They were all gone.
Did you ever see any officer-inmate relationships that were beyond like what you're talking about?
Yep, I was lookout. They had a girl, I'm not gonna say her name. I seen on one particular occasion, I seen a young lady have relations with an officer, and they actually both gave each other STDs.
How did that happen? I mean, I know how that happened, but she went to medical and found out she had something, and he gave it to her.
And she gave it to him.
Did medical staff do anything? Like, was that, because that's kind of proof that something was going on?
Well, one of the inmates tried to extort him, and he didn't want to give it. So they told, and it had witnesses, and that's how he got fired. And his wife divorced him, so we got the whole spiel on that. But she ended up, I think she stayed on the unit.
Just to break it down so I'm understanding the whole story, they have an inappropriate relationship where they're having sexual relationships. You said you looked out for them sometimes. Explain what that is, to be a lookout.
A lookout is if you trying to do something, then somebody just look out or just do like a signal if an inmate or an officer is coming, just so they can get a heads up, get themselves, correct themselves, and just be on a move.
And then they ended up, I mean, STDs happen.
Herpes and
And
syphilis.
oh my goodness. Wow. Tell me about somebody got mad or somebody saw that situation. Maybe they weren't mad, but they saw that situation and used it as an opportunity, a possible opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
What did they ask the officer for? Do you know?
I don't remember, but I knew it was some type of food. Like it was some type of food. That's what they wanted, food. And he didn't want to bring it in. And so she told. That was that. And I think that's right around the time they started putting the cameras up. You remember they started putting the cameras up? That's right around
Yeah.
the time they started.
When I got to the unit, they were just finishing that with the cameras. The inmate that was having the relationship with the officer, did she have any repercussions? Did she get in trouble from that?
Yeah, right up.
And it was establishing an inappropriate relationship right up.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the only relationship between an officer and inmate that you had firsthand knowledge of?
Nope. Yeah, I used to pass kites for officers and inmates. The
And
officer, he told me that he thought somebody was cute. And then I said, well, talk to her. And then he said, how? I said, well, just write it and I'm going to give it to her. He said, make sure this don't get in nobody else's hands. And I said, okay. I think he brought me like some chicken or something like that. But me and him used to be really, really close, though, me and that particular officer. He ended up getting fired. But me and him we were particularly really, really close.
have you ever seen an officer inmate relationship that actually blossomed into something, like you felt like maybe they were actually in love?
No, I never seen that.
I get asked a lot for advice, people that are looking at time going into the system or their daughters going into the system. What kind of advice would you have for somebody just to get through their time the easiest that they could?
Everybody's different, you know. So being that I was at such a young age, the way I looked at it is, it's like I have a motto that I live by in my life, period. And my son lived by the motto too. You know, you can't fight the inevitable. So you know you have to do it. You know you have to. It's nothing that you can do. You have to do it. Or whatever. It's the way you get through it, actually. You know, don't always look at it as a bad thing. I looked at mine as a good thing. I actually went to college. So I did a whole bunch of good stuff. So even though you have to do this, don't let this define who you are as a person, because it's not. So use this time wisely, get yourself together, you know, find yourself, get to know yourself. Because obviously while we're doing a lot of this stuff, we actually don't know ourselves. You know, while we commit, we don't know ourselves. We don't know our true selves. If you have a conscience and that conscience tell you not to do something, you don't know yourself or whatever. And you have to just look at it in the way I'm looking at it. And just get to know yourself and find your peace, you know, and find your peace, make peace with it. And then after that, it's going to go smoothly. And that's the only way I can say it that makes sense to me, because that's the way I did it.
Are you still in touch with any of the ladies you were incarcerated with?
Yes.
Can we talk about that?
A lot of us are friends. We went to the liquor store. I went to the liquor store the other day, and then I had seen one of the girls there, and she looked at me, and I looked at her. She said, "Oh, I'm coming get my hug," and I was like, "Girl, go on, come on, bring it on in." Her, I'm friends with another. I'm friends with quite a few of them. Quite a few. Do we see each other regularly? Probably not. I work too much, so probably not. But it's just one in particular that I really adore. I think all of us adore her. I think all of us adore her. She brings a lot of us together.
Tiara, we're about out of time for today, but I just want to make sure that if there was something I didn't ask you about that maybe you had in mind to share, we want to hear it.
I just want everybody just to realize we all made mistakes. Some of us got caught, some of us didn't. But that does not define who we are as people. We're all people, and we all have to look out for each other. No matter our backgrounds or situations, we all deserve a second chance. So when you know somebody has a felony, don't just judge them just off that. You know, judge them or off who they are as a person and off their heart, because that goes a long way. Because we already don't feel accepted. So by, judgment and, judgmental comments it doesn't help the situation.
I love that. You said that beautifully. Thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate you so much.